times royal families do get asked a lot of questions. It's in the modern era, what has happened is people have gotten too much of freedom, and they have started a trend that nobody can force so many things on us. My life, my rules, kind of nonsensical things have been making round in this era. The kings, especially the royal family, anybody, even if he's even a person is like the last one in the line to the throne, it doesn't matter. Every royal member has got a duty to discharge. They have to uphold the dignity of their family. The entire legacy of their family stands on their shoulders. Therefore, they have to be very careful about their conduct, their behavior, their way of communication with others, and hence they can not afford the liberty to ask such stupid questions that my life, my rules, who are you to ask me, why do you have to tell me to do all these things. It's only the stupid people who come up with all these kind of things, to be honest. Those who understand their responsibilities, those who know what is expected of them, and how they have to behave in the society, they generally don't ask such dumb questions. They don't question the authority, because if there is no authority, if there is nobody to question our behavior, if there is no one to check our day-to-day activities, then we are living in a chaotic world. My guru very fondly used to say this. I remember this all of a sudden. It also brought a smile on my face. He used to say that every house should have a nagging granny. This is what my guru used to say. Why should every house must have a nagging granny? Is because it's usually those people, those old people who nag and nag and nag, and who pick on the smallest of errors that we commit, the tiniest of errors that we commit. It's their nitpicking that keeps on our toes, that helps us to achieve that perfection, or at least near perfection. And unknowingly, we tend to become that once we age. We may be saying that, don't do this, and I don't like this, I'm more liberal, and all such things. They sound quite fascinating and fancy only until an age. But once we get to that part of the age, I think we also tend to become the same thing. We start nitpicking, and it's a good thing. I don't know if I have mentioned this, or if I have recalled this in the previous session. There was a famous Italian journalist who was once asked that what holds an entire civilization together, and his answer was gossip. Gossip is the thing that holds an entire civilization together. And many people did not believe him. Like, how can gossip hold an entire civilization together? As long as we are not the subject of the gossip, we are comfortable with that. The moment we begin to be the subject, when we start to feel that the heat is on us and we are the subject of the gossip, we tend to correct our steps. We are always aware if somebody is going to comment on us, char log kya kahenge. It is required. It is very much an essential thing for us to lead a life worthy to be remembered. So therefore, it's always the gossip. We must always remain on our toes, and the society helps us. Because we also would have done the same thing. It's not like we have never judged anyone and we have a problem when people judge us. We always do. The problem is not with judging people. The problem is when you don't know how to convey it to them. When you convey it in the tone of a judgment, nobody likes it. But if you convey it in the tone of what is that called as, the very technical term is constructive criticism. When you give it in the form of a CC, constructive criticism, everybody welcomes you. It's just the way of how we present facts to the people, right? This is so the first tantra that has been mentioned in the series of Panchatantra is mitrasaṃprāpti, because the name doesn't look good. People always want to build society, not break them, and people are very fond of mitra because everyone understands what mitra is. Mitra means a friend, and you should always want to befriend someone. You want to make friends with somebody and not break up the friendship. Who starts the series with mitrasaṃprāpti? We will get the answers today, because the story that we are going to narrate today, that we are going to go through today, explains a king or a ruler or an administrator must be aware of all three types of things. Right. So the second tantra is called as mitrasaṃprāpti. What is the motive of mitrasaṃprāpti? What is the core of mitrasaṃprāpti? So the entire mitrasaṃprāpti begins with one shloka, which forms the foundation, which lays the foundation for the entire tantra that we are going to discuss, with plenty of stories. There will be so many stories. I mean, story in a story, covered in another story, covered in another story. That's how the Panchatantra's style is. in between, we need to be very careful, very keenly observing to pick all these things. Otherwise, we will just miss the train. It will be like going in a train and sleeping throughout. And if you are going by train through Western Ghats, and if you sleep, why did you even start the journey? Would be the question, isn't it? So sometimes we have to keep our eyes open so that we have to pick the things that Viṣṇuśarma has hidden in between, in the midst of these stories. Key important attributes in their life. Those who have the ability to foresee the future, those who live in the present, and those who are well learned. These people, even without proper resources at their disposal, end up succeeding in life. Example, is there anything, I mean, if you make such a statement, you should probably back up with some examples. Are there any examples? I miserably failed when I tried to bring up several examples from the current day scenario, and nobody fits the bill. But Panchatantra has better examples. Kaka. The first one is a crow, a raven. Second one is Akhu. Akhu is the serpent. And then Mriga is the deer. And the fourth one is Kurma, that is tortoise. Basically, these are the four important animals that we need to focus in this particular tantra. The whole story will be revolving around these four important animals. And it's about studying of animal behavior as well. We get to know. Now, the story begins. In the southern part of our country, there is a place called Bhāratavarṣa. And within the premises of that city, and not very far from that city of Bhāratavarṣa, there is a massive Vatavriksham, a huge banyan tree, which has been the house for hundreds and thousands of birds, which has been the house for various other creatures who have been living, who have been dwelling inside the tree as well. So in this tree, and they say that, isn't this the very definition of being a tree? If you are a tree, and if you're not the home for several creatures, if you're not able to help the world, are you even eligible to call yourself a tree? There are certain trees who do exist, but they don't help anyone out. Right? So the Panchatantra calls them as Bhūbhāra. They're like merely a weight on this earth, just like us. We are on this earth, but we are of no use to anybody, at least not to the world. We will know how we are beneficial to one another. And there is a huge debate that goes on between two characters here, which says that how to define a friend. So it's very important. Plenty of discussions to look forward. So such a huge banyan tree existed very nearby Bhāratavarṣa, and in that tree lived a crow named Laghupatanaka. Please remember the name. As I said, Kaka, Akhu, Mriga, Kurma. These are the four important animals that we are going to find in this entire tantra. So the name of this crow was Laghupatanaka, as the name itself suggests, very quick to fall down and climb up. So he was agile. That's what he means to say. So such a crow lived on that huge tree. One fine day, it was traveling, it was flying, and it saw from a very fair distance a person walking towards this huge banyan tree. How was this fellow? This fellow was having a net in his hand. He was holding a net in his hand, and he was quite black. It is not racist, okay? Please don't say that, how can you say Ati Krishna Tanu? It's how you describe a person. I don't know how it becomes offensive to some people. It's all created by these people, I tell you. Okay, he was dark. How do you describe a dark complexion fellow? You have to use the word black, isn't it? Just because somebody gets offended thousands of miles away, we can't stop using the word black. That is stupidity. Anyway, according to Panchatantra, he was pitch black. He was dark black. Ati Krishna Tanuhu. He says that, the author says that he looked like a Yamakinkara. He looked like one of the Yamakinkaras. He walked like that with a net in his hand and holding a stick in his hand. He walked. And Urdhvakesha, he had made his hair designed in such a way that he looked exactly like a Yamakinkara, like how usually women tie their buns during the summer. Sorry, no offense meant. Just to give a glimpse of that person. And this crow was an intelligent crow. So this crow saw this fellow approaching this huge tree, and he thought to himself, why is he approaching this tree, especially with a stick and this net in his hand, is he trying to capture the birds? I think so. Therefore, he was actually going away from the tree. Laghupatanaka was headed out from the tree, but he immediately returned to alert his friends, all the people. And it's like when a danger is approaching your apartment, as a good citizen, you alert all the remaining flatmates as well. So that's exactly what Laghupatanaka did. He went back to the tree and he told the other dwellers of that particular tree that danger is approaching. And no matter how good the grains that he is going to put out in front of us, we must not fall for him. We should see those grains as filled with kalakutam, that is poison. The grains that he is going to put for us is filled with poison. Imagine this, and do not step out of your home. Now, this is one thing that one must understand. In the next part of the story, we will realize how important it is to have a fortress. And Kautilya, he mentions that, and this is just a glimpse that I'm giving. Mitrasaṃprāpti is about you being in the strongest position that you can, and then negotiating with someone, and then getting somebody on board. It's not about you losing your credibility or whatever strength that you have. If you compromise with your own strength in order to gain a friend, you are the biggest fool. You should not do that. That's exactly what this is all about. That's why he is paying so much of attention. He's giving so much of concerned attention towards the formation of Durga. And Durga, I mean, not the 9-day Vali Durga. No, that is gone. Durga here refers to, is one of the 7 important angas of Rajya. Saptangam Rajyam. This is the concept of Rajya. This is the concept of state in Kautilya's Arthashastra. So Durga happens to be one of the most important ingredients. And he dedicates several chapters. Chanakya dedicates several chapters in Durga Rakshanam. How to protect. How many kinds of Durgas are there? Jala Durga, Vana Durga. And he goes to an extent and says that these are natural things. There should be a natural boundary. There should be a natural shield to the place that you are governing. If you cannot find a natural shield, if you happen to find yourself in a place where there is no natural covering, take example of our country. We are naturally blessed, isn't it? 3 sides of our country is covered by ocean. How difficult it is for an army or a navy to cross the ocean. So it's like we have a naturally formed fort, Durga. And on the other side, we have the Himalayas, the mountains. So basically, we are well covered. And that is the concept of Durga. We will get to know more about Durga in the upcoming part of the story. Just a glimpse at how Panchatantra very minutely discusses all these things. Moving on. Fine. So every single bird and every single creature living on that Vatavriksha was vigilant, and they did not fall prey to this trap laid down by the Yamakinkara, the person, the hunter, right? But he is also wise. Just because the inhabitants of a particular apartment do not fall prey or do not fall into your trap, it doesn't mean that you should not keep your office open. That's how business strategies work, isn't it? You open a store nearby an apartment, and none of the people from the apartment are buying anything from you, from your shop, but you still keep it open. Why? Because they will have visitors, isn't it? Visitors who come to those places, who come to that apartment, they might have forgotten something to bring. Everybody wants to bring something. They want to bring a loaf of bread when they go to their friend's place, and they forgot to bring. You want a loaf of bread? We have a loaf of. That's how businesses work, isn't it? Exactly. The Lubdhaka, the hunter, he waited. He waited patiently, and his patience was duly rewarded, because a flock of pigeon flew from nowhere, and Laghupatanaka was screaming his lungs out, telling them that please don't fall for these grains. It's a trap. You're going to get trapped. Don't fall for this. But he was led by a king. I mean, the king of that group, the leader of that flock of pigeons. His name was Chitragriva. Chitragriva led his community into the trap and finished. And they were trapped. And that was like Sahasra Parivaraha. They were not 1 or 2 in number. They were 1,000 in number. Just imagine how big the trap was and how good his catch was that day. Just at this time, Laghupatanaka felt that it's a mistake. Why did you not listen to me? And he did not have, I mean, he wanted to speak to Chitragriva, but Chitragriva was already caught, and this fellow felt, the Lubdhaka, the hunter, felt that his day's job is done, and he started walking. Now, at this time, this is when the actual leadership, the actual quality of leadership comes out. Chitragriva addresses his troops, his community, his people. He talks to them. He says that it's a mistake. The first and foremost thing a leader must do when they are in trouble is acknowledge the mistake that has been committed. Admit to the public that this has been a mistake from our end. It's a collective mistake. Do not blame any single person. Look at the words that he says. Jihva laulyad bhakshanartham apadat. So he says that it's because of our own mistake. We were hungry and our tongues gave us up and we fell into this trap. It's a collective mistake. I'm not blaming anybody. We are, after all, birds. Chitragriva is speaking to his pigeons, so that's why I'm saying that. Now, after all, we are birds. We are only birds. Therefore, we have fallen for this. And this taste can take anybody to any extent of trouble. Look how safe the fish are, isn't it? Right in the midst of the water, where nobody can reach them. And yet, you put a worm and they try to catch it and they get caught. So, why all the people, when we study the Yoga Shastras or Upanishads, they keep telling that Indriya Nigraha. Why? Yes, this is so important because it can lure us away. Kritsnam hidam shastram indriya jayaha. Never forget this line written by Chanakya. It's like everything else that has been written by Chanakya in the name of Arthashastra is a footnote to this line. Kritsnam hi idam shastram indriya jayaha. He says that this entire Arthashastra can be summarized, can be summed up in 2 words or in 1 word, indriya jayaha. Control over senses. If you do not have control over senses, you cannot be a great administrator, period. And we are seeing the live example of Chitragriva and his fellow companions and his followers falling into it. Why does this happen? Chitragriva was a good leader. He was a decent leader. He has led them for so many years. And how could he fall into such a trap in spite of all the alerts being issued by none other than Laghupatanaka? Now, Panchatantra takes a very philosophical view of this. It asks a question. Now, it needs to be taken with a pinch of salt because it has one of my most favorite characters. For those of you who have attended Ramakatha Lahari, you know how much I appreciate the first character that has been mentioned in the first line of this shloka. Paulastyah katham anyadara harane dosham na vijñātavān. The shloka, the line asks that how did Ravana not see the mistake, the pitfall in kidnapping, in abducting other women? It's like putting too much of confidence, as if the author has so much of confidence in Ravana. He is Ravana. Anyway, this is not. I don't want to assassinate the character of Ravana right now, but that's the question. Ravana, such a learned fellow, he did commit this mistake. Okay, it's not like only Ravana did commit mistake. Even Rama committed a mistake. Where did Rama commit a mistake? Ramenapi katham na hema harinasya asambhavo lakshitaha. The golden deer. How could he not understand that a golden deer cannot exist? Okay, fine. These 2 people, there might have been plenty of reasons. How about a well-learned person? Because we don't know what kind of learning both Rama and Ravana had. Because there is no mention of their education. Whereas on the other hand, Yudhishthira was a well-learned fellow. We all know that he was the most inquisitive one throughout Mahabharata. 70% of Mahabharata has been written courtesy of Yudhishthira. If it was not Yudhishthira and if it was not Bhishma, then we would not have had this huge of a work. What happened to Yudhishthira? See, Aksheshchapi Yudhishthirena sahasa prapto hinarthah katham. He did gamble, isn't it? And not only did he gamble, he lost his everything in the gamble. Such a learned fellow. I think we are missing the point here. The point is, pratyasanna vipatti mudha manasam prayomati hikshiyate. When it is the wrong time, even the greats falter. Even the greatest of great minds fall down when it is the wrong time. So, buddhayah kubjagaminyo bhavanti mahatamopi. Even the greatest of greats usually lose their temper, usually lose their intellect, lose their mind during some unforeseen circumstances. Okay, back to the story. Now, Lubdhaka, the hunter, was so happy he was carrying. At this time, as I said, Chitragriva, the leader, the true leader that he was, he began to speak to his comrades. How we can use the word comrade. And don't take me that I'm a leftist just because I'm using the word comrade. It's a beautiful word, right? Okay. So he spoke to his comrades. And he says that Vyasaneshveva sarveshu yasya buddhir nahiyate satesham paramudheti. Those who do not lose their mind during crisis are the only ones who cross that crisis. Remember this line. Those who lose their minds during the crisis can never cross the crisis. Crisis management 101. Do not lose your mind during a crisis. Fundamental thing. And then he gives a beautiful example. Like, how can you make such an arrogant statement? Do you think it is easy to not lose mind during crisis? Hundreds of things one needs to think about. And you are saying that it is as if it is so simple. Hey, take a look at the sun. Sampattaucha vipattaucha mahatam ekarupata. The great do not falter, do not dwindle, or do not alter their course, either during success or during failure. Look at the sun. He is red when he rises. He is red when he sets. When he goes down, he is of the same color. And when he comes up, he is of the same color. Have you ever seen him changing any color? Sunset. Oh, sunset blues. No. Sunset is always red. Sunrise yellow. No. Sunrise yellow. No. It's always red. He keeps his composure. Therefore, we must keep our composure at this moment. So what is the course of action, boss? The course of action is quite simple. What we need to do is we need to put all our strength and fly along with this trap. Do you think it is possible? Of course it is possible. Let us, pull ourselves together and we can fly. And I know a friend. I have a friend. I know the location without GPS. I know his location. All we need to do is lift ourselves up and we are known to fly. We are the flying creatures. We are not dumb like penguins. What is the use of having a wing if you cannot fly? Dumb penguins, I tell you. They might be cute. Who cares about cuteness? And when you have wings, you need to fly. If you cannot fly, you are useless to be a bird. Fine. So he motivated them and they started. And he gave them an example. See, a single thread can be broken, can be torn apart. But when the threads are formed together, it becomes a cloth. And cloths are not that easy to tear up. So we need to come together and we need to fly together. The birds of the same feather or same color, or something like that. There's a proverb in English, they fly together or something like that. And inspired by Panchatantra, I guess. So finally they started flying. The hunter was flabbergasted for a minute. Like, what is happening in front of my eyes? I have never seen such a reaction by any of the birds that I have got so far in my life. How are these pigeons managing this? But he was clever. He thought, Jalamadaya gachanti. They are flying away with the trap, isn't it? Let them fly. Yavacha vivadishyante. Birds are known to be quarrelsome. They will quarrel amongst themselves because they can't. Oh yes, birds of a feather flock together. Yeah, pigeons. They all flock together, right? But not only do birds of a feather flock together, they quarrel together as well. That has not become a famous proverb, unfortunately. But this fellow has a PhD in animal behavior, especially in bird behavior. He has been catching birds since he was maybe 8 years old. So he knows how birds behave. He says that they're all flying together and one of them is bound to get hungry. Because if there is one thing that birds cannot control, it is their hunger. And where do we get to know this fact? Ramayana. All right. When Sampati says that a bird cannot control its hunger, it needs to be fed all the time. Why do you think they make so much of chirping noise? Hunger. It's not cute. Everything that you find is not cute. It's their inevitability. It's their anivaryata. It's their rosy roti. It's their hunger. They're screaming out of hunger. They're not finding food. You find it cute. I mean, yeah. When human beings don't understand nature properly and they start feeling that everything around them is cute and adorable, this is what happens. We are so foolish. Right. Okay. So he was very sure that one of them, some of them, because thousands of them are there, so one of them is going to get hungry and then they will start quarreling amongst themselves, patishyanti, and then they will fall down, and then I will carry them. It did not happen. It did not happen. And he had to go back home empty-handed. I mean, literally empty-handed, because he lost his tool, his instrument as well. His important tool was the trap, and he lost the trap as well. And he felt, and then he became philosophical. He says that nahi bhavati yanna bhavyam. See, what is not meant to be shall not be. It's good realizations. Karatalagatam api nashyati yasya bhavitavyata nasti. When something is not supposed to happen, even if it is in your hand, it will be snatched by some other people. That's the brutality of vidhi. Nobody is above vidhi. Nobody is above karma. 100 baat ki ek baat, lakh baat ki ek baat. Nothing can break the inevitability of karma. And karma itself is called as vidhi. What do you think vidhi is? What do you think bhagya is? Fortune. Fortune is our karma. It is the solid one. Nobody can break that, right? And the Chitragriva actually speaks to his fellow comrades, and he says that the hunter is gone. Now he finally has given up, because he followed them for a very long time, thinking that they will quarrel, they will fall. Once they fall, I will capture them and go back. But since they did not, so he said that he went empty-handed, and Chitragriva saw that, and he spoke to his friends. He said that we have to go towards the northeast part of this city. In the northeast part of this city, Mahilaropyam, there stays a friend of mine whose name is Hiranyaka. And he is, by the way, a mushaka. He's a mouse. Okay. A clever mouse, and he is my friend, and we have to go to him. Why do you have to go to a mouse now? Because you're all trapped. You need somebody to release you from the trap, and only a mouse can do that, because it has got natural teeth that can cut through it. So I said, when people get into trouble, it's not the family that comes first. It's always the friends that come first. Oh, such a broad smile. No. Such a broad smile on your faces, I can see. No. This is just a statement that has been made. Okay, we need to weigh the options. We can't jump to conclusions that soon. So he went there, and just take a look at how that Mushaka was placed. In which place did he live, and how did he live? Sahasra Mukha Bila Durgam. His name was Hiranyaka, by the way. The name of the mouse was Hiranyaka. So Chitragriva and his friends and his companions, they went to Hiranyaka, the mouse, and it was a Sahasra Mukha Bila Durgam, 1,000 forted bila in which he stayed. Akuto Bhayaha, and he was so safe. And he mentions why one needs to stay in such a secluded place, such a secure place. Security is paramount wherever we stay. I mean, probably we wouldn't understand the trouble of invasion, the trouble of the roof over our head being snatched away from us at any given point of time. Ask those people who live on the borders and who are always subjected to an attack from the enemies. They know what it is to live, isn't it? So we just can only imagine that. And he says that what people who are aware of Niti Shastra, who are aware of Rajaniti Shastra, what they do is they build a fort around themselves. A fort keeps you safe. What happens if you do not have a fort? He gives an example. What happens to a snake whose teeth has been removed? A toothless snake. I fondly remember Ramdhari Singh Dinakar, where he says that Dantahin Sarp. And he gives this example. Like, if you remove the teeth from a snake, nobody is scared of it, isn't it? Dantahin Visharahit is the, and Madahino Yatha Gajaha. An elephant without rut. An elephant needs to have that mada. And if it has not got that, then it becomes like a toy. I remember one more line from Bhaskaracharya this time, right? This is taken from his Siddhanta Shiromani. He's talking about the importance of mathematics. He's trying to highlight the importance of Siddhanta in Jyotisha. Jyotisha is basically based on 3 important pillars: Siddhanta, Samhita, and Hora. Siddhanta is the mathematical, the calculation part. It says that those who do not study the calculation part, the mathematical part of Jyotisha, but are well versed in Hora. Hora is understanding karma phala and giving out results, so and so. He says that they are kanthirava. They are like the lion. You know what kind of a lion? Kashthasya kanthirava. A lion made out of wood. Nobody gets scared of a wooden lion, isn't it? They look fancy. So, an elephant without rut becomes a toy. A snake without teeth, a poisonless, a venomless snake is not respected that much. So, likewise, a king, a governor without fort, a state, a kingdom, an empire without fort becomes a joke. And he says that you can have thousands of elephants with you. You can have all kinds of nuclear power with you. If you do not have a fort that can protect you, all those arms and ammunitions, all those weapons that you have are of no use. I want to draw the attention of all of you, if any of you have watched the TV series Game of Thrones. In one of, I don't remember the season, in one of the episodes, there is a character called as Blackfish. And Jaime Lannister happens to be there leading the siege of that fort. His entire castle was surrounded by the rivals. He was alone, and he fights them for an entire day. And that fine example, the same example is taken in this context as well, where he says that Shatamekopi sandhatte prakarastho dhanurdhara. If you are a great dhanurdhara, and if you have a prakara means if you have fort, if you are a fortified archer, then you can fight 100 people single-handedly. Therefore, prashamsanti. Therefore, a fort is always appreciated by Niti Shastra Vidojana. By those who have understood Rajaniti Shastra, they always prefer security. Why do you think all governments spend so much of money every year in their budget on defense? Security, as I said, is paramount. You have to secure the borders first. Fine, moving on. So Chitragriva, the king of the Kapotas, the king of pigeons, he went to that place and he raised his voice because he was down under somewhere, and Hiranyaka, the mouse. So he called upon his friend. He said, "Who are you?" Right? That's why I said, "Don't smile." He said, "Who are you? Why are you here? What kind of trouble are you in? And why are you summoning me?" He said, "See, my name is Chitragriva. I'm a good friend of yours, and I am in deep trouble. Can you please come out and help me?" Okay. Oh, then he remembered that, yes, I know Chitragriva. Just because somebody knocks on your door, it doesn't mean that you have to open it. Isn't this the first lesson that all of us were taught when we were children? First lesson, don't open the door when somebody knocks. Ask. Fine. He remembered that you are my friend, and he came out of his place and he said that this is what friends are meant for, isn't it? When we are in deep trouble, that's when the friends come in handy. They will help us to get out of that misery. And now, for all of you, my dear friends, here is a list of things that are forever and naturally ever glowing, ever pleasant. There are few things that are ever pleasant, and there are few things which are pleasant forever. A list given in Panchatantra. First one, Adityasya Udayam. I have always wondered this, and now we have finally found the line. Suryodaya, the sunrise, is always pleasant every single day. You make a pact with yourself that starting from tomorrow onwards, you will wake up and see the sun rise every single day for the rest of your life. You won't be disappointed. You won't get bored. That's the whole point. It's the same bloody sun coming up every day, and it is never boring. Forever pleasant. Adityasya Udayam. And then Tambulam, if there are any fans here. Tambulam, pan. It's never boring. The same combination, the same ingredients. I mean, if you eat 10 times a day, then it might become boring. If you eat it in a mitam, like how much you have to consume, it's always good. And then Bharati, speech. How long have we all been speaking? Ever since we learned how to speak, we have been speaking non-stop. We are never bored of our own voice. We are never bored of our own words. Maybe we get bored of other people's voices because they're annoying, but we never get bored of ourselves. And then Katha, story. Stories are forever pleasant. Even if you have heard this story before, And if that story is narrated to you again and again and again, it still is pleasant. And then Ishtaha, the people whom we love, the people whom we like. And Bharya, no laughing, no sarcasm at all. This is the honest truth that has been mentioned. A wife is forever pleasant. Men might disagree, but who cares? Men are stupid. But a wife is supposed to be forever pleasant. See, I'm not always anti-feminist in my talks. I do speak on behalf of women as well. Moving on. It's good to get one point on my side. And people sometimes take that I'm very much against women and all those things. And a good friend is always pleasant. Apurvani dine dine. Every day they get this freshness from somewhere. So he asked, what happened to you? How do you find yourself in such deep trouble? He narrated everything in a very cryptic way. He said that what needs to happen, at what time, from whom, that will happen. You know the inevitability of things happening in life. And why are you asking me? Things have happened. We found ourselves in such deep trouble. Now it's your job to remove us from this misery. And he made a very a sly comment, Hiranyaka, because he's a wise fellow. And he made a sly comment saying that the birds have the ability to sense danger from half a yojana, from a very, very far away place. They can sense danger. They can sense food. They can, it works both ways. They can catch hold of a prey from a very long distance. The things that we can't see, which is right in front of our eyes, the birds can view that from a very far distance. That's why hawk eye view, because their eyes are so sharp. In spite of having such a sharp eye, you all fell into trap. Well done. The irony of things in life, isn't it? And then, or why should I mock you? Because Ravinishakarayor Grahapidanam. Even the sun and the moon are not left out of trouble. They are troubled by Rahu and Ketu. And one such thing is about to happen tonight. Chandragrahanam. Even they get into trouble. Gaja Bhujanga Vihangama Bandhanam. Have we not seen the mighty elephant getting tamed? Serpents, venomous serpents getting caught. The ever-soaring birds being caught. So I think it's quite natural. Matimatancha niriksha daridradam. The most intellectual people are usually the poorest ones. I mean, not today, but once upon a time. And vidhiraho balavaniti memati. So Hiranyaka concluded saying that I think vidhi is supreme. Nobody can surpass vidhi. I think sometimes when vidhi gets vidhi viparita and vidhi gets viparitam, nobody can go against it. Nobody can alter its things. Even the safest of safe people get caught. Therefore, even if you are in the most secluded place, in the most secure place, if your vidhi is not with you, you can get caught. You will get caught. I think it is the kala, it is the vidhi that grabs people in its and it clutches the people as and when it wishes. And then, fine. Now I want to remove, and Hiranyaka goes to Chitragriva and he wanted to cut the trap where Chitragriva was trapped. He said, what are you doing? Why are you releasing me first? Don't. Release my comrades first. Release my followers first. Arre, you are the king. If you are happy, then they can all be happy. No. They have followed me and they have entrusted me. They have left their families in order to follow me. So it becomes my responsibility to take care of them. Hence, you please free them first, and then you may free us. And then he says, what is the most important job of a leader? See, Panchatantra, it was getting boring, isn't it? Story. Now comes a point. He says that he who pays attention to his servants, he who keeps his servants happy, will be a good governor. You won't believe me, right? Go to the 100th sarga of the Ayodhya Kandam of Valmiki Ramayanam, which is famously known as Kachit Sarga, where Rajniti has been taught in the format of questioning, where Rama questions Bharata. And one of the important questions that Rama has asked Bharata in that episode or in that sarga, in that adhyaya is, have you been paying salary to all the people who are on your payroll? You should always disburse the salary on time. Because when you don't, it leads to mutiny. You all know that. You all have read that in the history books, isn't it? Or That's how socialism and social revolutions, all the revolutions come up with the non-dispersal of salaries on time. It's not about disbursing salary at any given point of time that you wish, as many state governments do these days. It's about disbursing the salary on time because they are serving you. Therefore, vitta bhave pitam drishtva te tyajanti na karechit. When the system, when the administration, when the governance actually gets into real trouble, when they run out of money, so the people who work for them won't revolt against them. That's how you win the confidence of people who work for you. You keep them happy and they will not desert you during your crisis. And therefore, it's my responsibility to take care of them first. And when the crisis was common to all of us, and if I happen to get myself out of the crisis first, what kind of an image would it present to the people who have followed me? It would seem I'm being very selfish, isn't it? I don't want to be selfish because Vishwasa Sampadam Moolam Tena Yat Yuthapatir Gajaha. Trust is the basis for treasure. If you want to increase the value or GDP or whatever you want to call it, if you want to increase your value in the world, earn trust. He gives an example. See, no doubt the lion is called as the king of the jungle, isn't it? How many followers do you see behind the lion? Not a single one of its own family members follow a lion. Take a look at the elephant. An entire herd follows an elephant. Why? Because the elephant, the lead elephant, takes care of its family. It paves the way. It protects its own kind. That's why it is called as Yuthapati, the leader of the masses. That's how a leader should be. Isn't it wonderful? I mean, such a common example that we find in the nature, and we have never tried to imply it. You are no doubt a ferocious leader, a fantastic leader. You are taking us. But when it is, when the crisis hits us, are you there leading us or have you deserted us? That shows what kind of a leader are you. Are you a lion? Because lion seems to be the symbol for every leader. Nobody keeps the elephant as their symbol. But elephants were an integral part of all Raja Lanchanas. You make a study, you can conduct a study on only the Raja Lanchanas that have existed in our country. And elephants, horses, the Shweta Chhatram, the Chamaram, all these things are commonly found across various kingdoms and various empires that existed in our country. And this is how you train the young minds. They will start feeling compassionate towards the people that are following them. And when you realize that there are hundreds and thousands of people who look up to you to lead them, who are following you, you will always be alert. You will always be kept on your toes. That's why the Raja Vritti or Raja Dharma is Kshurasya Dhara. It's like walking on the edge of a sword. Moving on. Therefore, you have to release my followers. And he said that, yes, I was simply testing you. I knew that you were a good friend, but I wanted to see if you have lost any goodness that I had previously seen in you. As I said, it's a very clever mouse. You have to test. This is very much a natural process. It's not like once you make a friend, it's not like friends for life. That is nonsense. That is rubbish. You have to keep on refreshing them. How do you know that they are not corrupted? How do you know you are not corrupted in their context? I mean, towards them, regarding them, how do you ensure that you are not corrupted? Your mind is not corrupted. Your friend was penniless when you made friends with him. Now, he's in a very strong position, which can aid you, which can help you in some of your ventures. Are you telling me that you are not going to use this? Don't you think you are corrupted as well? One needs to put themselves as well as the other person through the litmus test every single time. That's what friendship means. That's how you keep the friendship going on. That's why it is said, Vyavaharena mitrani bhavanti ripavastatha. It's always the vyavahara, the behavior, the exchanges that happen between two people, which determines friendship. It's not our likes and dislikes that makes two people friends. Do you think common hatred for Pakistan would bring two countries together? I mean, only common hatred or common liking for a particular thing would bring two dumb people together. We are not talking about dumb people, isn't it? We are talking about nations. We are talking about countries. We are talking about kingdoms. And when one king has to bring in another fellow, when he has to shake hands, when he has to associate his entire kingdom with others, it means it's like a merger. It's like, when you merge two entities or when you merge two companies, they have to show their books to each other, isn't it? Like account books to each other. You can't do a merger in bad faith. Likewise, when you are bringing in a friend, in terms of a governor, in terms of administration, in terms of a king, you have to be very, very careful. You can't bring in somebody with whom you share common commonalities and common likings and dislikings. That's not how friendships work. Mitravan sadhayatyarthan dussadhyanapi vayyatah. Why should you gain a friend? Why should you take somebody as a friend? Why should you rely on a friend? Because he makes things that are or that seem impossible to you possible. Oh, only God makes my impossible things, improbable things possible. Therefore, God is my friend. Hey, this is your personal thing. We're not talking about your personal agenda here. This is Panchatantra. This is Arthashastram. This is a serious thing. This is a political thing. We have to think in terms of a nation, in terms of an empire. You can't bring in these sort of emotions here. It needs to be very accurate. And this is how accuracy is maintained in friendships. Tasman mitrani kurvita samananyeva chatmanah. Therefore, you should always make friends with those who have the same capabilities as you. And because in future, we will get to know, in the next part, we will get to know what happens if you make friends with a direct enemy. Or what happens if you make friends with those who are superior to you, who are more powerful than you. Associations or these kind of, that's why I said, it's about foreign policy. With what kind of nation do you want to get yourself involved in? With what kind of nation do you want to do business with? You can do business with only that kind of nation which is on par with you. You can't go and make friends with somebody who is very poor than you or who is richer than you, because it always puts you under moral obligation. 75 years, have you not witnessed this? We still feel that we are intellectually colonized. Earlier, it was by United Kingdom or the Britain. Now it is by some other country. Why is it always like this? Because we have made some bad friends. We have made some bad mergers. We have been in some bad deals. We have not done a proper mitrasaṃprāpti. It belonged to the grand scheme of things, that few things were meant to happen like this. So it's like the trap was set for both Rama and Ravana together. Because if not, there is no way that Rama was going to meet Ravana, isn't it? One must remember in terms of purely political sense, because we are discussing about Panchatantra. Let us see what would be the burning necessity for Rama to invade Ravana. None, because how much resources is required in order to cross the ocean? It is unthinkable. It was undoable. It was unheard of. Nobody had done that before. Nobody had ever crossed the ocean and conquered another nation. Even before this, Dutch, Portuguese, French, and British did. And Rama did that long time ago. And in that course, we must not forget that it's a greatest lesson in, what should I say, foreign policy or political diplomacy. He made friends. He gained a friend. He gained a friend down south. Just imagine the political impact he would have had throughout the nation. How do you think Rama became such a popular figure throughout our country? His kingdom was placed in Ayodhya. We are the residents of southern part of India. It was possible because he had a friend in Sugriva. And in the middle part of India, he had a friend in Guha. And in the southern part of India, he had a friend in Sugriva. And that's how you establish, that's how you become a Chakravarti. Instead of calling upon his bannermen, instead of calling upon his own people to fight the war, just imagine they had to walk all the way from Ayodhya and they had to cross the ocean. Do you think any human beings could cross the ocean? Khud Ram could not cross the ocean. I mean, it was Hanuman who helped them cross. Both Rama and Lakshmana were carried by Hanuman, isn't it? It is, in one way, a superhuman act. And his army, his own men who were at his disposal, he could have easily asked Bharata to accompany him. They could not have been sufficient. They would not have been sufficient enough to cross the ocean. That's where this political mindset, this intricate things about how to manage asadhana api prajnaha. At that time, that resource, even if he has that resource, is of no use. So it's like, in balance sheet, it's like it's if it is in minus in a balance sheet, it is of no use, isn't it? It's just like that. Therefore, it is of no use to Rama. It was of no use to Rama. Therefore, he had to make friends with Sugriva. Mitrasaṃprāpti. And I'm going to keep this as an example because it is one of the finest examples of mitrasaṃprāpti. With whom do you make friends? Sugriva was not even heard of by anybody. It's only because of Rama's association that Sugriva came to be known and he became popular. But I want to highlight, I want to take all of you to one particular line in Ramayana, in Kishkindha Kanda, which is, for personally, it is one of my most favorite lines in Ramayana. I have plenty of them, but this one is one of my most favorite lines. If Sugriva says that kalantare means that in due course of time, you will realize how worthy I am to be your friend. You may not realize my worth immediately. It is like, holding on to some good stocks. You may not realize the potential of that stock right now. Immediately, you may not. But in longer terms, you will. I mean, he brought an army that was never heard of. The army that scared the daylights out of Ravana. It was never heard of. Ravana was almost invincible. And it was all because of Sugriva. He brought such an army. I mean, that is magnificent, isn't it? That's how you make friends. You have to invest in some good friends. Mitrasaṃprāpti. Finest example, Rama making friends with Sugriva. Laghupatanaka. You remember who is Laghupatanaka, by the way? The crow. He was witnessing all these things. He followed Chitragriva and his comrades. He wanted to see what is the game plan of this fellow. What strategy is this leader gaining? Because he's a very inquisitive fellow, Laghupatanaka. Even though it is a crow, it was very inquisitive. So it went around and it saw, Laghupatanaka saw every conversation that happened, each and every conversation that happened between Hiranyaka and Chitragriva. He was very much impressed. Not with Chitragriva. Laghupatanaka, now the story takes second turn. Now this is second. So Laghupatanaka was very much impressed with Hiranyaka's intellect. Said, what a clever fellow he is. What an intelligent fellow. How much of depth he has. He said, Buddhi. First and foremost, he appreciated Hiranyaka, that is the mouse, Hiranyaka's Buddhi. Secondly, Shakti, his ability, and Durga Samagri. Said, look how good he is, how protected he is, how secure he is. He was very happy. He's not exposed to any sort of danger. And one must appreciate that. I think api sampurnata yuktaihi. Now, Laghupatanaka comes to a conclusion. Even when somebody is fulfilled, self-sufficient, by fulfilled he means even when somebody is self-sufficient, kartavya suhrudo budhaihi, everybody needs friends. Okay. Why? Take an example. Nadishaf paripurnopi chandrodayam apekshate. Samudra. Is he not self-sufficient? He is fulfilled. Like, is there anything that is missing from Samudra, the ocean? Nothing is missing. He is as complete as anything can get. He has everything. And yet, he needs the help of the moon. Isn't it? Only when the Chandrodaya happens, only when the moon rises, the waves of the ocean increase. So his happiness, his abhivriddhi, his success or his growth, if we can call so, the waves reaching high, imagine that as a graph. Country's GDP growing like this, graph. The graph of an ocean increases only with the help of the moon. Therefore, even when you are self-sufficient, you need a friend. We will stop at this point and we will see how Laghupatanaka approaches Hiranyaka to make friends with him. And what is the response of Hiranyaka? By the way, Hiranyaka is the mouse and Laghupatanaka is the crow. And you know what crows do to rats or to mouse or to mice. They eat them, isn't it? Just keep on that point and we will meet again in 2 weeks' time where we discuss how to make friends or how not to make friends. Should they be friends or should they not be friends? What is your take on that? Don't read the Panchatantra yet. And just keep on asking these questions and we will meet again in 2 weeks' time.